97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Geoff Mosher, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.
I love coaching this football team. I love coaching those players in there.
Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast and brought to you by PlaySugarHouse.com. Sign up now. They'll match your first deposit up to $250. Geoff Mosher is in the house from InsideTheBirds.com and the Inside the Birds podcast. Don't forget to check their pregame show out live on all social media platforms this Sunday, starting at 10 a.m. with Geoff Mosher, Adam Kaplan, Trey Thomas, and Greg Cosell. And, of course, Geoff, like all guests, appears via the Boardwalk Honda hotline on this Friday as we get ready for the Eagles and the Cleveland Browns. Geoff, welcome back, pal. How are you?
Oh, it's great. I'm doing well. Hope you guys are doing well, too.
We're all set to go. Let's start off with the big news that came out this morning. I mean, how big is the news of Myles Garrett not playing for Cleveland? I mean, do you look at this as maybe a game-changing type of situation?
Absolutely. It's enormous. Now, it doesn't automatically make the Eagles' passing offense that much better. I mean, you look at the Giants, they're a good team. They've got some decent pass rushers like Leonard Williams has been doing a good job, but they don't have a Myles Garrett type of pass rusher, and they were still able to get the Eagles' offense out of rhythm. So it doesn't exactly mean that the Eagles' problems are solved, but it's certainly a breath of fresh air for a guy like Jason Peters and Lane Johnson to be able to go in knowing that, you know, the Browns are going to be out a guy who is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate and just a really good overall player. And the Browns don't really have a pass rusher after that's in that echelon. I mean, Olivier Vernon's a nice player. Adrian Claiborne's a veteran defensive player who's been okay, but they don't have anything like Myles Garrett after that.
There's no question that it changes things, because it leads me into my next question is the injuries on the offensive line. Doug was asked about it today about, you know, how realistically that has hurt his offense, hurt Carson Wentz, hurt the entire offense, play calling and everything, you know, having, 8 lines in 9 weeks. And, you know, this week it might be the most stabilized the offensive line has been all season long.
There's no question, Mike, that Carson Wentz has been hit too much. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And not only that, but even Greg Cosell has mentioned this several times on our pregame show. When he's not being hit, he is being asked to make a lot of throws with guys in his face because offensive linemen are not resetting the line of scrimmage. They're getting pushed back. You know, they're stalemated for a little bit, but eventually they allow that penetration. So there's no question that Carson's rhythm has been disrupted by that. I'm not going to lie. I think it's pretty obvious for people who see that. However, I also don't think that just the offensive line has been the issue with Carson and the pass offense to the point where Isaac Seumalo comes back and now Jason Peters is there and you snap your fingers and Carson Wentz is going to start to look like the Carson Wentz from a couple of years ago. I think there have been a lot of plays where Carson has had, and this is a very strange statistic that Ron Jaworski tweeted last week, but when Carson Wentz has more time in the pocket this year, he's actually been a less effective, less accurate quarterback than when he has less time in the pocket, which shows you that even when he's protected, there's some things going on upstairs in his head that aren't right. You know, he's not seeing the clear picture of the entire field, and that's why you've seen some bad throws, some sail throws, sometimes where he just doesn't pull the trigger on somebody open, and then also some turnovers. So I'd like to think it'll help. I almost think the offensive line helps the run game even more and allows Doug to do some of those concepts that we haven't seen yet. A lot of the misdirection, a lot of this, you know, the guard tackle pin pull type action. You started to see a little bit of it last week, but hopefully it'll be there even more so this week. But I'm not sure it's just like a finger snap and all of a sudden the line's healthy and Carson's great again.
When you look at the Browns defensively, what matchup do you like best for the Eagles?
Well, you look at the Browns safeties, Hunter, and they're one of the very few teams that plays with two safeties that are more considered box safeties than free safeties. You know, everybody's going to having the versatile coverage safeties because it's a passing league. And what they've got in Carl Joseph and in the name is now Andrew Senejo, former Eagle, who we've all seen is a very, a violent hitter, a physical player, but not one who excels in coverage. So that's an area that you would think you would like the Eagles to be able to attack, get those seam routes with Goddard going. It doesn't sound like Ertz is going to play, get Rager or somebody else in the slot, have them run vertically and capitalize on that. However, Doug Peterson also has to kind of understand that before he can walk, he's got to crawl with this offense. So before you start attacking the seams and going vertical, you would like to see the offense at least get some rhythm going on and Carson have his accuracy going before you just start flinging the ball down the field. So it's kind of a delicate game, I think, for Doug, where he's going to want to be aggressive downfield and take advantage of those safeties. And also Terrence Mitchell, I should mention. He's the other corner opposite Denzel Ward. Denzel Ward's very good. Terrence Mitchell has been a journeyman. He wasn't very good a couple of years ago with the Chiefs. And he is a guy you can pick on. But again, before you pick on these guys, you have to make sure that your quarterback is seeing the field correctly and in a good rhythm and in a good flow.
Geoff Mosher, Football at 4 from the Inside the Birds podcast. It drops tomorrow morning. It dropped this morning at 6 a.m. The Inside the Birds pregame show is Sunday morning at 10 a.m. on social media platforms. All right, there's a lot to kind of unpack here because this Cleveland team, they're good, 6-3. You look at the record, but their offense last week scored 10 points in the game against Houston. It's supposed to be kind of a sloppy day. They like to run the ball. They're third best in the league in rushing. We kind of think of the Eagles' defense as a defense that can stop the run. Their linebackers have been a problem, but I feel like TJ Edwards, this is the kind of game that he is actually a positive in, of having that bigger, older school linebacker. Can the Eagles, the Browns' run game actually play into what the Eagles might be good at?
I guess so, but I would think that, well, first of all, the Browns have two electrifying running backs. They've got Chubb and they've got Kareem Hunt. And although TJ Edwards is a good downhill linebacker, the Browns' running game is not necessarily a downhill attack style on their own. They're a wide zone, a stretch zone, outside zone kind of team that you saw Kevin Stefanski do that last year as offensive coordinator with the Vikings and what kind of impact that had with a guy like Dalvin Cook. And now he's got two really good running backs, and he's doing a lot of that too. So, when you run that wide zone, sometimes you run it the opposite way. You're running it the Singleton's way. Or even if you're running it to Edwards' way, you're asking him to run side to side instead of downhill. I think he's a little bit more known for being a downhill style of linebacker. So I think this is going to be a real challenge for the Eagles defense. You did say that they've been a good rush defense under Jim Schwartz, and historically they have, but this year they have not. They're actually, I think, ranked 22nd against the run. Now, some of that is because they've given up a lot of rushing yards to quarterbacks. But you've seen in the last few weeks, guys like Alfred Morris and Wayne Gallman have been able to gash them just a little bit more than you would expect. Even the Pollard kid from Dallas, I thought, picked up some yards on them when Ezekiel Elliott came out of the game that were surprising to me. And the one thing I'll be looking for, the Browns have not done this yet, but, it's a copycat league. We know Baker Mayfield is an athletic quarterback. They don't use him to run very much. They don't use him the way the Giants have used Daniel Jones, and they surely don't use him the way the Ravens have used Lamar Jackson. But anybody who's watched Baker Mayfield at Oklahoma and even with Cleveland know that he's an athletic kid. He can run around a little bit if you ask him to. So I wonder if you're going to see the Browns kind of pop a little zone read in there for the first time. The only thing is that Mayfield's he's a small guy. I think he's a 5'10", 5'11". So, he's not Kyler Murray speed or athletic, but he is athletic. So I wouldn't be surprised if they at least took one or two kind of zone read shots, or if not that, then using some misdirection. They got a kid named Tywan Taylor, I think it is, who's kind of their change of pace type runner receiving back that has hurt the Eagles. You think of like Ray McLeod did with the Steelers, right? So, you got to think that the Browns are going to try to complement that with a running game that should already be impactful.
Sticking with the defense, are you kind of surprised with Will Parks' role? He had 6 snaps last game. He can defend the tight end. He's done it before. I just feel that he has more to give than what he's given. But you heard Jim Schwartz speak, and he mentioned the packages that he is normally involved in, and that situation didn't really pop up with the New York Giants. I just wonder, can he be used in more than just those packages and can be effective?
It's a good question, and I feel like the injury that he had really clouded his role with the team. So what he is right now, as you mentioned, Hunter, is the third safety, and they're only going to put the third safety on the field when they're in kind of a big nickel or dime situations, and that's usually when the offense that they're facing is playing, a lot of 10 or 11 personnel and trying to spread the field out. But when they played the Giants last week, the Giants put a bunch of tight ends on the field. They go heavy up front. They try to keep you in your base defense. And so when the Eagles are in base, their two safeties are going to be McLeod and Mills. Now, going into the year, I thought that Will Parks was going to wind up being the second safety, multiple type of guy, variety guy, multidimensional, and that Mills would be the third safety who came on in those sub packages to cover tight ends and in the middle of the field. But Will Parks obviously got hurt. He missed a long, long time. He came back a couple of weeks ago, but then they had the bye week, so I don't know what his conditioning is like. So I understand why he didn't play much against the Giants because his role didn't call for it. But I do wonder if eventually he can win back that number two safety role. But this team, as how they've shown in the past, really trust Jalen Mills in the role that they've given him, and it doesn't seem like they want to get him off the field. Trey Thomas did an excellent job of pointing out that on Daniel Jones's zone read touchdown run, Mills was blocked off of it wasn't Mills' primary responsibility, but he certainly had a chance to make a play, and it didn't look like he was really eager to get off that block and make the play. And you wonder, he's a corner by nature. You wonder if a guy like Parks, who's a safety by nature, would have been a little bit more impactful on that type of play. So we'll see if there's any change of the safety or playing time here as we go along. But you would have to think if things stay the same, the way Cleveland is, another big upfront type team, run the ball, that Will Parks will probably not see as much time unless the coaches have decided they want to kind of flip him a little bit with Mills.
Now, this game, it looks like Sayamala is on track to return. He is not on the injury report, although they don't have to list him. I guess he's still in that 21-day window. Nate Herbig is not on the injury report either. Now, he was dressed last week and just mysteriously did not play. I don't know if anybody got to the bottom of that, but you would anticipate that Sayamala and Herbig will be your guards on Sunday?
Yeah, it's really interesting because Herbig played, I think, one special teams snap, right, against the Giants. So clearly the injury he had, the finger injury, did not put him in a position where he could play guard, but he was able to play. I guess it must have been on field goal or something like that, where he just gets in as an extra body. And because they were able to play him, I guess that they were able to keep him off of the practice report throughout the week. That must have been where he practiced all week long, knowing that he wasn't going to be able to play. So that was a little bit of a shrewd move there by the Eagles. But I guess, as we say, legal and within bounds because he did play. So it didn't sound to me like Doug was 100% confident that Herbig was going to be able to play right guard. In fact, he mentioned, prior, and even brought up Jack Driscoll's name today as somebody who could fill in if need be. So I feel like that's something we're going to find out more in the next 24 to 36 hours.
All right. We didn't see Fulgham. He had one catch for 5 yards on 5 targets last week. I mean, was that like the teams are starting to game plan? I know Doug said, well, defenses are defending him a little bit better now, but is there some sort of concern that, all right, maybe this flash is in the pan is over?
Well, I mean, so if that is the concern, but I do remember speaking to you guys last week. Coming out of the bye, we were talking about what we can expect in the second half, and I said one of my big concerns is for a guy like Travis Fulgham is that he became kind of an overnight sensation, and this is essentially like a rookie year because he only played a couple of games last year, and now all of a sudden, he's high on the totem pole, and defensive coordinators are figuring out that he is their top target, and he himself has to stay mentally involved every week after week after week because this is all new to him. and you don't want him to lose him into some kind of rookie rut or first year, whatever you want to call it. And I felt it was really important that Doug made sure that he did, design some players to get the ball in Travis Fulgham's hands pretty quickly just to get him into the flow of the game. And he did not do that. And I think that's on Doug. If you remember, I think the first play that the Eagles had was a very quick hitter to Greg Ward on the left side. Ward picked up about 4 or 5 yards and made a guy miss. Just, they got the ball into Greg Ward's hands really quickly. I felt like that's what they need to do more so with Travis Fulgham and Jalen Reagor. No disrespect to Greg Ward, but your playmakers are Fulgham and Reagor. And if you have Reagor, much like you asked with Fulgham, just running a bunch of fly routes and deep posts and not lining up in the slot or not catching a pass out of the backfield, then you're not doing a good job, in my opinion, of getting him involved and getting the ball in his hand.
Yeah, I feel like, and this is something that we talked about, Doug's lack of creativity, the lack of the offense. I don't know that he's really had the personnel to do more, but he does now. Like, you can run jet sweeps. You can do more bubble screen stuff. Okay, maybe he didn't have that receiver that really fit the jet sweep mold or the bubble screens. But I think, Reagor is a guy that I was hoping to see more from in terms of creativity at this point. And I'm wondering, Doug kind of admitted that, he was hurt and, he's catching up. So, I don't know, maybe there's more there, but we haven't seen it.
No, I mean, the guy's healthy and his conditioning is fine. So while, yes, his route running may be a little bit behind or his comfortability with Carson might be a little bit behind, to me, that screams more reason for Doug to find a way to get the ball in his hands with short stuff. Maybe not sending him 30 yards down the field and expecting him and Carson to be in a rhythm. So I look back on that last game and having lots of tape myself, and I thought Doug really fell short in a lot of areas that could have benefited his team. We can talk about Carson Wentz not helping out either and not being accurate and seemingly being lost, and all that's true, but Doug, I don't think, did enough to help out his team last game.
What are your thoughts on the Jordan Howard signing? Is it more of a security blanket if Sanders is out for a week or two, or do you think he's going to try and implement him in with Miles Sanders as well and, use him as a different type of back?
Yeah, I'm so confused. I'm not confused because obviously he's a power back and they can use kind of a grinder, and you saw Corey Clement placed on the COVID-19 list and everything. And I don't know. I guess what's mind-boggling to me, and maybe you guys agree or disagree, is if you want this guy because you want a power back, then why have you kept Elijah Holyfield on your practice squad all year long and not used him? What's the point of having Holyfield there if you're not going to use him, and then you are going to use up another spot on your squad, which teams are using their practice squad more than ever this year, to have a different power back? It doesn't make any sense to me. Then just cut bait with Elijah Holyfield and bring somebody else in on your practice squad who you can take a look at. To me, I just feel like there are guys that are taking up either spots on the 53 or spots on the practice squad, and you wonder what they're here for. Why is Jason Huntley? Justin Huntley, I was watching his first name. Why is Huntley here? Jason Huntley, right? He doesn't do anything. Sometimes he returns some kicks, but he just seems to be taking up a spot for whatever. And so we'll see what they do with Howard, Jordan Howard, and obviously he can't play this week, but maybe the week after there's a chance to get him on the field. But you have to ask yourself this, though. I mean, what happened to him in Miami that he's behind guys like Myles Gaskin and the kid that got now running the ball for him is someone Ahmed Salva or something like that I've never even heard of. And why is Jordan Howard only averaging 1.2 yards per carry?
Right. We'll leave you with this. This news just came out that Press Taylor and Aaron Moorhead will not coach in the game. They are staying home for precautionary reasons, potential COVID exposure. So Press Taylor, Aaron Moorhead, I know they're just assistant position coaches, but how much, I think Press Taylor is the pass coordinator, but does that have any effect on the game?
I mean, as far as the outcome, I don't know, but, how often do we talk about when Carson's not playing well, why do you not see him on the sidelines having a discussion with his positional coach about what's not going right? You see that. Now, you saw it Thursday night. I think Kyler Murray was on the bench looking dejected, and his coach was there working through him on the tablet, and you almost never see that with Carson Wentz. So obviously you take Press Taylor away, and that's a positional coach of value. He's not there. Same thing with Moorhead. I mean, most of that stuff is done Monday through Friday from a wide receivers coach standpoint. But somebody else is going to have to kind of deal with the rotations and packages and know when to get guys in and when to get guys out. They do have, I believe, an assistant wide receivers coach whose name is escaping me right now who can probably handle that. But, you know, I will say that's something that I believe every single team is dealing with. I think the Bengals are going to be without 3 or 4 of their coaches this weekend, and some other teams too. So that's just the world we're living in right now.
All right. Ultimately, Sunday, obviously, every game at this point, you got to try to pile up a win somewhere. You got Cleveland to 2.5 point, 3.5 3-point spread, which kind of favors the Eagles in this spot. How do you feel?
Well, I would like to say I trust the Eagles to be able to capitalize on some of the advantages they have, but I really don't. I don't trust them offensively, and defensively, I'm not sure I trust them against a team that can run the ball. And not only that, but, you know, Cleveland doesn't have a lot of exterior weapons, so you don't think it'll be perimeter weapons. I mean, so it probably won't be a big game for Slay, maybe not Maddox, but they've struggled in interior coverage, and Jarvis Landry is a good slot receiver who's physical and can beat you in a lot of different ways. And the offense has done a good job with Kevin Stefanski presiding over it of limiting Baker Mayfield's kind of wildness and erraticness. He's over 60%. He's only got 7 interceptions. This is a clean, fundamentally sound football team, and the Eagles are not. And so I'm leaning toward the Browns winning kind of a 24-20 type of game.
All right, there you go. Cleveland by Geoff Mosher wins the game. By the way, the assistant wide receivers coach is Matt Harper, and Andrew Briner is the assistant pass game analyst. So there you go. All right, Geoff Mosher, Inside the Birds podcast. Check that out from this morning. And also, don't forget the Inside the Birds pregame show Sunday at 10 a.m. across all social media platforms. The guys are back next week for more of Football at 4. Jeff, take care, pal.
Thanks, guys. I'll get that connection cleaned up, I promise.
Please do. All right. He, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.